Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where we transform ancient wisdom into practical tools for modern life. Our mission is simple: to help you navigate today's chaos with the timeless strategies that have guided humanity's wisest minds for over 2,000 years. Let's dive straight into today's critical question. How do you focus your mind when life gets crazy? You know the feeling. You sit down to work on something important, and suddenly your phone buzzes with an urgent text. Your email pings with 3 emergency requests. Your neighbor starts their leaf blower. Your kids burst through the door with their latest crisis. The news app sends another doom and gloom notification. Your boss messages you on Slack about that project due yesterday. Meanwhile, your mind races through your unpaid bills, that awkward conversation from last week, and whether you remembered to switch the laundry. Sound familiar? You're not alone. In fact, you're experiencing the same frustration that plagued one of history's most productive writers nearly 2,000 years ago in ancient Rome. Here's what most people don't realize. The inability to focus isn't a modern problem created by smartphones and social media. It's a timeless human challenge that even the greatest minds in history had to overcome. The difference? They discovered a mental technique so powerful that it allowed them to produce masterworks while their world literally crumbled around them. Today, you're going to learn that exact same technique, an ancient mind trick that has been quietly transforming lives for centuries. This isn't some mystical meditation that requires years of practice. It's not about finding a quiet cave to hide in. And it definitely doesn't require you to throw your phone in the ocean or quit your job to find peace. This is about developing an unshakable mental fortress that no amount of chaos can penetrate. It's about training your mind to lock onto what matters, regardless of what insanity swirls around you. Whether you're dealing with a noisy office, a chaotic household, financial stress, relationship drama, or just the general overwhelm of modern existence, this ancient approach will show you how to find laser focus in the eye of any storm. Over the next several sections, we'll explore exactly how a Roman philosopher discovered this technique while facing challenges that would break most people today. You'll learn why your brain struggles with focus, master the specific mental training that conquers chaos, and develop a practical daily ritual that transforms scattered thinking into powerful concentration. Most importantly, you'll discover that the power to focus, truly focus, has always been within your control. You just need to know how to activate it. 1. When your life feels like a circus gone wrong. You're sitting in your downtown Chicago apartment, trying to finish a crucial work presentation. The L train thunders past your window every 12 minutes, shaking your coffee mug. Your upstairs neighbor apparently decided today was perfect for teaching their kid tap dancing. Through the thin walls, you hear the couple next door in their 3rd argument this week about money. Your phone won't stop buzzing. Your mom needs help with her computer. Your friend is having another relationship crisis, and your group chat is exploding with drama about weekend plans. Meanwhile, your own life isn't exactly peaceful. Your credit card bill sits unopened on the counter because you already know it's bad news. That performance review at work didn't go as planned, and now you're worried about job security. Your car started making that expensive-sounding noise again. Oh, and your ex just got engaged to someone who looks annoyingly perfect on Instagram. Welcome to the circus. Population, you. Now, let me tell you about someone who would completely understand your situation. Nearly 2,000 years ago, there lived a Roman writer named Seneca who faced a remarkably similar predicament. While you might assume ancient Rome was all peaceful gardens and philosophical contemplation, Seneca's reality was pure chaos. Imagine trying to write in a room directly above a gymnasium. All day long, athletes dropped heavy lead weights that crashed against the stone floor. The grunting of men exercising mixed with the slapping sounds of massages happening in the next room. Street vendors shouted their wares. Fresh fish, best prices in Rome. Children played games in the alley, their laughter and screams echoing off the walls. Dogs barked at passing carriages that rumbled over cobblestones. Occasionally, the city guards would arrest a thief right outside, complete with shouting, scuffling, and crowds gathering to watch the drama. But here's where it gets interesting. Seneca wasn't just dealing with noise. His entire life was unraveling. His financial investments across the empire were tanking due to political unrest. He could feel age creeping into his bones, reminding him that time was running out. His political enemies had successfully pushed him out of his advisory position. Worst of all, he had fallen out of favor with Emperor Nero, a deranged ruler who killed people on a whim. Any day, Seneca could receive a visit from the imperial guard with orders for his execution. Talk about a circus gone wrong. Most of us would completely shut down under such pressure. We can barely handle a noisy Starbucks, let alone death threats from a psychopathic emperor. Yet somehow, in the middle of this absolute chaos, Seneca produced some of the most influential writings in human history. His letters and essays on how to live well have inspired millions of people across centuries. CEOs, presidents, and everyday people still turn to his words for guidance. How is this possible? How does someone maintain such clarity of thought when their world is literally falling apart? The answer reveals something profound about the human mind that we've forgotten in our modern age. See, we tend to believe that we need perfect conditions to focus. We think if we could just find a quiet space, if we could just solve all our problems, if we could just get our lives together, then we could finally concentrate and do our best work. Seneca discovered this was completely backwards. Every new thing excites the mind, he wrote to his friend Lucilius. But a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. In other words, the chaos wasn't the real problem. The problem was how his mind reacted to the chaos. Think about your own situation for a moment. When your neighbor starts making noise, what happens? Your mind immediately latches onto it. How dare they? Don't they know I'm working? This is so inconsiderate. When your phone buzzes, your brain instantly wonders, what if it's important? What if someone needs me? What if I'm missing out on something? Each distraction doesn't just steal a moment. It hijacks your entire mental state. Your thoughts scatter in a dozen directions. Your stress hormones spike. Your focus shatters like a dropped mirror. Even after the noise stops or you check your phone, it takes precious minutes to regain your concentration. By then, another distraction arrives, and the cycle continues. Seneca faced the same challenge, multiplied by 1,000. The noise from the gymnasium, the political threats, the financial worries, each one could have derailed his thinking. Yet he discovered something that changed everything. The circus around you doesn't have to become the circus within you. This might sound like philosophical fluff, but it's actually a practical insight with profound implications. Your external environment and your internal state are two separate things. They feel connected because we've trained our minds to react instantly to every stimulus. But this connection isn't hardwired, it's a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. When Seneca wrote about forcing his mind to concentrate despite the bedlam, he wasn't describing some superhuman feat, he was explaining a skill he had developed through practice, a mental technique that anyone could learn. This ancient mind trick would become the foundation of his incredible productivity and peace of mind, even as his world crumbled around him. In essence, Seneca realized that the real circus wasn't in the streets of Rome, it was in the automatic reactions of an untrained mind. 2. Why noise and chaos destroy your focus. Let's say you're working from your Los Angeles apartment, deep in concentration on an important project. Suddenly, your neighbor's car alarm goes off, that piercing, repetitive shriek that seems designed to shatter human sanity. What happens in your brain at that exact moment? First, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, instantly hijacks your attention. This ancient part of your brain doesn't care that you're working on a deadline. It evolved millions of years ago when sudden loud noises usually meant danger. A predator approaching, a tree falling, a rival tribe attacking. Your body floods with stress hormones. Your heart rate spikes. Your muscles tense. Every fiber of your being shifts into high alert mode. Here's the cruel irony. Your brain reacts to that car alarm with the same intensity it would to a charging lion. The physiological response is identical. Your modern rational mind knows it's just an annoying sound, but your primitive brain doesn't distinguish between real threats and false alarms. It just knows. Loud noise equals potential danger equals stop everything and pay attention now. This is exactly what those ancient Romans experienced, too. When Seneca heard the crash of weights in the gymnasium below, his brain underwent the same hijacking. When vendors shouted in the street, when carriages rumbled past, when the authorities arrested that pickpocket, each sound triggered the same primitive response that disrupts your focus today. But it gets worse. Modern neuroscience has revealed something Seneca understood intuitively. Your brain isn't designed to multitask. When you try to focus while managing distractions, you're not actually doing two things at once. You're rapidly switching between tasks, and each switch carries a brutal cost. Researchers call it switching penalty. Every time your attention jumps from your work to a distraction and back again, your brain needs time to reorient. It's like trying to read a book while someone keeps changing the TV channel every few seconds. You might catch glimpses of different shows, but you'll never understand the plot of any of them. Consider what happens in a typical modern workspace. You're analyzing a spreadsheet when an email notification pops up. Even if you don't check it, your brain has already started wondering, who's it from? Is it urgent? What if my boss needs something? That wondering alone drops your IQ by several points. If you do check the email, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus on your original task. Now multiply that by the dozens of interruptions in a typical hour. Slack messages, text alerts, doorbell cameras, news notifications, social media pings, plus all the real-world noise around you. No wonder we feel mentally exhausted by lunch. The ancient Romans faced their own version of this cognitive assault. Imagine Seneca trying to craft a complex philosophical argument while processing the rhythmic pounding from the gymnasium, the sudden shouts of street vendors, the unpredictable crashes and commotions of city life. Each sound forced his brain to evaluate, Is this important? Do I need to respond? Can I ignore it? This constant evaluation drains mental energy faster than the actual work you're trying to do. It's like running a computer with 50 programs open in the background. Everything slows to a crawl. Your brain, desperately trying to process all inputs simultaneously, can't give full power to any single task. But here's where it gets fascinating. Seneca noticed something that modern psychology has only recently confirmed. Not all distractions are created equal. Physical noise, the crashes, shouts, and rumbles was actually easier to handle than emotional chaos. The mind is more easily dealt with when it faces external troubles, Seneca observed, than when it is torn by internal conflicts. In other words, the real focus killers aren't the sounds around you. They're the storms within you. Think about your toughest days. Was it really the leaf blower next door that ruined your concentration? Or was it the anxiety about your credit card debt, the frustration with your boss, the worry about your relationship, the general sense that life is spiraling out of control? When Seneca mentioned his finances threatened by overseas unrest, his political enemies celebrating his downfall, the very real possibility of execution by a mad emperor, these weren't just background stressors. They were mental hurricanes that made the physical noise seem trivial by comparison. This is why modern life feels impossibly distracting. It's not just that we have smartphones and notifications that ancient Romans lacked. It's that we're carrying unprecedented levels of internal chaos. Financial pressure, social comparison, information overload, existential anxiety about the future. Every external distraction lands on a mind already stretched to its breaking point. The switching penalty becomes exponentially worse when you're switching not just between tasks, but between emotional states. One moment you're trying to focus on work, the next you're spiraling about climate change because of a news alert, then you're jealous because someone's vacation photos popped up on Instagram, then you're anxious about a passive-aggressive text from your mother. Your brain simply wasn't designed for this. Evolution prepared us to handle immediate, concrete challenges. Find food, avoid predators, and cooperate with our tribe. It didn't prepare us for abstract spreadsheets while simultaneously processing global catastrophes, social hierarchies, and infinite digital demands for our attention. Understanding this is crucial because it reveals why conventional focus advice falls short. Just find a quiet space doesn't work when the real chaos is internal. Turn off notifications helps, but not when your mind is already a hurricane of worries and pressures. Therefore, the solution can't be about controlling your environment. As Seneca discovered in chaotic ancient Rome, the answer lies in developing a fundamentally different relationship with distraction itself. 3. The 2,000-year-old mind trick that changes everything. Imagine you're Seneca, sitting in your Roman apartment with chaos erupting all around you. The gymnasium below sounds like Thor's hammer factory. Your money is evaporating overseas. Emperor Nero, a man who literally burned people alive for entertainment, wants you dead. Most people would curl up in a ball and wait for the end. Instead, Seneca made a decision that would echo through history. He picked up his stylus and wrote these extraordinary words to his friend. I have toughened my nerves against all that sort of thing. I force my mind to concentrate and keep it from straying to things outside itself. All outdoors may be bedlam, provided that there is no disturbance within. Wait, he toughened his nerves? He forced his mind? This wasn't some mystical meditation or philosophical theory. Seneca was describing a specific mental technique, a practical method he used to achieve focus in impossible conditions. Here's what Seneca discovered. Your mind is like a muscle, and like any muscle, it can be trained to perform under pressure. But, and this is crucial, you can't train it by avoiding distractions. You train it by practicing focus in the presence of distractions. Think about how we typically approach concentration. We seek perfect conditions: a quiet room, a clear desk, a calm mind. We treat focus like a delicate flower that needs ideal circumstances to bloom. Seneca flipped this completely backwards. He treated focus like a fighter that gets stronger through combat. Every new thing excites the mind, Seneca explained. But a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. Translation: distractions only have power because we give them power. We've trained our minds to chase every shiny object, every notification, every sound. But this training can be reversed. The technique itself is deceptively simple, which is why most people miss its brilliance. Instead of trying to block out distractions, Seneca acknowledged them and then made a conscious choice to return his attention to his work. Not once, not twice, but hundreds of times throughout each day. Let me break this down with a modern example. Sarah, a software developer in Seattle, discovered this technique while struggling to code in her noisy co-working space. Previously, every conversation, phone ring, or coffee machine gurgle would derail her completely. She'd spend half her energy getting annoyed at the noise and the other half trying to refocus. Then she tried Seneca's approach. When someone started a loud phone call nearby, instead of tensing up and thinking seriously, "How rude. I can't work like this," she would simply note, "There's a phone call happening." Then, and here's the key, she would deliberately return her attention to her code. No anger, no resistance, just a calm redirection of focus. The first day was brutal. She must have redirected her attention 1,000 times. But something strange happened by day 3. The redirections became easier. By week 2, they were almost automatic. By month's end, she could code through a fire alarm test without losing her train of thought. What happened? She had trained her mind to treat distractions differently. Instead of each noise being a crisis that demanded emotional investment, they became neutral events, like clouds passing in the sky. You notice them, but you don't chase them. Seneca put it this way: the mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. But here's what he meant. When a distraction occurs, we don't just hear it. We create an entire story about it. That car alarm isn't just noise. It's proof that your neighbor is inconsiderate, that you'll never get your work done, and that your life is chaos. The weight dropping in the gymnasium wasn't just a sound. It was evidence that the world didn't care about Seneca's important work. The mind trick is to short-circuit this story-making machine. Distraction happens. You notice it. You return to your task. End of story. No drama. No resistance. No wasted energy on anger or frustration. This might sound too simple to work, but consider what's actually happening neurologically. Every time you consciously redirect your attention, you're strengthening specific neural pathways, the ones responsible for executive control and focused attention. You're literally rewiring your brain to maintain focus despite chaos. Modern neuroscientists call this cognitive control training. and studies show it physically changes brain structure. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's CEO, actually grows denser with practice. Meanwhile, the amygdala's hair trigger response to distractions gets dampened. You're building a stronger commander while calming an overactive alarm system. But Seneca understood something even deeper. He realized that perfect focus isn't about never getting distracted. That's impossible. Perfect focus is about how quickly and calmly you can return your attention to what matters. A master isn't someone who never falls. It's someone who gets back up without drama. You may be sure that you are at peace with yourself, Seneca wrote. When no noise reaches you, when no word shakes you out of yourself, whether it be flattery or a threat or merely an empty sound buzzing about you with unmeaning din. Notice he didn't say, when you work in perfect silence. He said, when no noise reaches you, meaning it doesn't penetrate your mental fortress. The sound waves hit your ears, but they don't hit your soul. You've developed what Seneca called a mind at peace with itself. Not because the world became peaceful, but because you became unshakable. Ultimately, this ancient mind trick reveals a profound truth. The power to focus has never been about controlling your environment. It's about controlling your response to your environment. And that power has been within you all along. For how to train your brain like an ancient philosopher. Let's get practical. You're convinced that Seneca's mind trick works. But how exactly do you develop this mental superpower? How do you go from someone who loses focus when a door slams to someone who can concentrate through chaos? The training starts with what ancient philosophers called voluntary hardship, deliberately practicing under difficult conditions. But don't worry, you won't need to move above a gymnasium or anger an emperor. Modern life provides plenty of training opportunities. Here's your first exercise, straight from the Stoic playbook. Tomorrow morning, instead of seeking the quietest spot for your most important work, deliberately choose somewhere with moderate distractions. Not a construction site, we're training, not torturing ourselves. Maybe a busy coffee shop in Brooklyn, your kitchen table while your roommate watches TV, or your home office with the window open to street sounds. Now comes the crucial part. Set a timer for just 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, your only job is to practice Seneca's technique. When a distraction occurs, and it will probably within seconds, don't fight it. Don't get annoyed. Simply notice it like a scientist observing data. Ah, there's a siren. Then, gently return your attention to your work. Think of it like training a puppy. When a puppy wanders off, you don't scream at it. You gently guide it back. Your attention is that puppy, and it will wander hundreds of times. Your job is patient redirection, not harsh discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who ruled Rome about a century after Seneca, developed his own version of this training. Every morning, before the empire's endless demands crashed down on him, he would write in his journal, not about his feelings or daily events, but mental exercises designed to strengthen his focus. Confine yourself to the present, he reminded himself. When his mind drifted to tomorrow's Senate meeting or yesterday's military report, he would write, "This moment is all you have. This task is all that matters." He was literally training his brain to resist the pull of mental time travel. You can adapt this practice. Before starting your work, write one sentence at the top of your page or document. This task deserves my full attention. Sounds simple, but this primes your brain for focus. You're making a conscious commitment, not just hoping for concentration. Here's where most people fail. They expect immediate results. They try Seneca's technique for a day, still get distracted, and conclude it doesn't work. That's like going to the gym once and being surprised you're not ripped. Mental training, like physical training, requires progressive overload. Week 1. Practice for 10-minute sessions, 3 times daily. You're not trying to accomplish major work yet. You're just training the redirection response. Count your redirections. If you redirect your attention 50 times in 10 minutes, that's 50 mental push-ups. You're getting stronger. Week 2. Extend sessions to 20 minutes. Notice how the redirections become slightly easier. Your brain is learning a new pattern. Instead of distraction leading to frustration leading to scattered thinking, you're creating a new neural pathway. Distraction leads to calm, acknowledgement leads to refocus. Week 3, here's where it gets interesting. Start practicing with emotional distractions, not just physical ones. While working, deliberately think about something that normally spirals your mind: bills, relationship issues, work stress. Notice the thought, then return to your task. You're training for the real enemies of focus: internal chaos. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of Rome's greatest philosophy teachers, had a powerful technique for this internal training. He called it the discipline of desire. Before you get the wrong idea, he wasn't talking about romantic desire. He meant the desire for things to be different than they are. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, Epictetus taught, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. Applied to focus training, this means don't wish for silence while you work. Wish for the ability to work regardless of noise. Don't demand perfect conditions. Develop perfect concentration. Here's an advanced exercise from the Stoic tradition. While working on something important, have a friend randomly interrupt you with questions or noises. Your job isn't to ignore them. That's impossible and rude. Instead, pause your work, address the interruption calmly, then return to exactly where you left off. No sighing, no eye rolling. No, you just broke my concentration. Just smooth transitions between focused work and necessary interactions. This trains something crucial: interruption recovery speed. In real life, you can't eliminate all interruptions. Your boss will message you. Your kids will need help. Emergencies will happen. The skill isn't avoiding these moments. It's minimizing their impact on your mental state. A marketing director in Miami used this training to transform her chaotic workdays. Previously, each interruption would cost her 30 minutes, 5 minutes dealing with it, 25 minutes of fuming and struggling to refocus. After 2 months of Stoic training, interruptions cost her 5 minutes total. She handled them and returned to deep work without the emotional tax. The ancient philosophers knew something we're rediscovering. Your brain is incredibly plastic. The neural pathways that currently scatter your attention in every direction can be rewired. The mental muscles that feel weak now can be strengthened. But it requires the same thing physical transformation requires: consistent, progressive training. Every new state of mind is first weakly held, Seneca observed. Time and practice strengthen it. Your new state of mind, focused, calm, unshakable, might feel foreign at first. That's normal. You're overwriting years of scattered thinking patterns. But with each successful redirection, each calm return to your task, you're building the mind that Seneca used to write masterpieces in chaos. In essence, training your brain like an ancient philosopher isn't about achieving some mystical state. It's about patient, practical repetition of a simple skill until it becomes your new nature. 5. When everything falls apart but you still need to function. Sometimes life doesn't give you gentle distractions to practice with. Sometimes it drops a nuclear bomb on your carefully constructed existence, then expects you to keep showing up and performing. Your mom gets diagnosed with cancer, but your presentation is still due Monday. Your partner announces they want a divorce, but your clients still need their projects completed. You lose your biggest account, but your team still looks to you for leadership. This is the advanced course, maintaining focus not just through noise, but through heartbreak. Consider Marcus, a financial analyst in Phoenix, whose world imploded on a random Tuesday. At 9 a.m., he learned his position was being eliminated in 3 months. At noon, his wife called to say their teenage son had been arrested for drug possession. By 2 p.m., his father was in the hospital with chest pains. Yet at 3 p.m., he had to lead a critical investor call that could determine whether his remaining colleagues kept their jobs. How do you focus when your life is literally falling apart? How did Seneca write brilliant philosophical essays while knowing Emperor Nero could order his death at any moment? The answer isn't to pretend everything is fine. The ancient Stoics weren't emotionless robots. They felt fear, grief, and anxiety just like us. The difference was in how they processed these emotions while still functioning at a high level. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, Seneca wrote, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. He knew that life's worst moments often arrive without warning. His solution wasn't denial. It was a technique he called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Before you think this sounds morbid, understand what Seneca was really teaching. He would spend a few minutes each morning mentally rehearsing potential catastrophes, not to become paranoid, but to remove their power to completely derail him. If Nero's guards arrived, he had already mentally practiced that scenario. His mind had a blueprint for functioning through crisis. You can adapt this for modern life, not by obsessing over everything that could go wrong, but by accepting a simple truth. Life will sometimes hit you with overwhelming challenges, and you'll still need to function. The question isn't if this will happen, but how you'll respond when it does. Here's the practical technique Seneca used when crisis struck. First, he would acknowledge the catastrophe completely. No toxic positivity, no everything happens for a reason platitudes. Just honest recognition. This is happening. This is terrible. This threatens everything I care about. But then, and this is crucial, he would ask himself, what is still within my control right now, in this moment? Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. For Seneca facing potential execution, the answer might be, I can still write this next paragraph. I can still share this wisdom. I can still choose how I spend this hour. Remember Sarah, a creative director in Portland, whose husband was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She described the moment she got the call. My mind went completely blank. Then it exploded with 1,000 thoughts, treatments, finances, our kids, his suffering, my future alone. I couldn't even remember how to breathe, but she had been practicing Stoic techniques for years. In that hospital waiting room, she pulled out her notebook and wrote, "What can I control right now?" The list was heartbreakingly short. I can be present for him. I can ask the doctor clear questions. I can handle today's urgent work deadlines. I can make sure the kids eat dinner. That list became her lifeline. When her mind spiraled into future catastrophes, she returned to, what can I control right now? When grief threatened to paralyze her at work, she focused on this one email, this one decision, this one moment of functioning. Marcus Aurelius, who lost multiple children and faced constant warfare, developed his own crisis technique. He would remind himself, confine yourself to the present, not because the future didn't matter, but because the present was the only place where he had any power. He couldn't resurrect his children or end all wars, but he could make wise decisions in this moment. The modern application is profound. When your world is collapsing, your brain wants to time travel, reliving past mistakes, imagining future disasters. This mental time travel doesn't just steal your focus, it multiplies your suffering. You experience the pain of the past, the terror of the future, and the chaos of the present simultaneously. The Stoic technique breaks this cycle. You acknowledge the crisis fully, no denial. But then you anchor yourself in the only moment where you have agency. Now, you can't change your diagnosis, but you can focus on this paragraph. You can't save your marriage, but you can complete this spreadsheet. You can't resurrect your career, but you can show up professionally today. This isn't about becoming an unfeeling machine. When that investor call ended, Marcus from Phoenix went to his car and sobbed. When Sarah finished her urgent deadlines, she held her husband and grieved. The Stoics called these first movements the natural, healthy human responses to tragedy. The goal isn't to eliminate these emotions, but to create space where you can still function despite them. Every new thing excites the mind, Seneca reminded us. But a crisis doesn't just excite the mind, it overwhelms it. The ancient technique still applies, just more intensely. The tragedy occurs. You acknowledge it fully. Then you return your attention to what you can control in this moment. Not once, but 1,000 times if necessary. Ultimately, this is the masterclass in Seneca's method. When life merely distracts you, returning focus is a useful skill. When life devastates you, returning focus becomes an act of heroism. Proof that the human spirit can function even in the darkest moments. 6. The secret to calm in the middle of chaos. Here's the scene. You're in a packed New York subway car during rush hour. The train suddenly stops between stations. The lights flicker. Someone's playing music without headphones. A baby starts screaming. The guy next to you apparently bathed in cologne. The conductor mumbles something incomprehensible about signal problems. Everyone around you is radiating stress and frustration. Yet there you sit, completely calm. Not because you're in denial about being late. Not because you don't care. But because you've discovered what the ancient philosophers knew. True calm has nothing to do with your circumstances and everything to do with your relationship to those circumstances. This is the secret that transformed Epictetus from a slave into one of history's most influential teachers. Born into bondage, his very name meant acquired. He was literally someone else's property. His leg was deliberately broken by his master, leaving him disabled for life. He had zero control over his external circumstances. Yet he achieved a level of inner peace that emperors envied. There is only one way to happiness, Epictetus taught his students, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Now, before you roll your eyes at what sounds like a motivational poster, understand what Epictetus actually discovered. He didn't just preach acceptance. He developed a practical mental framework that anyone can use to find calm in chaos. He called it the dichotomy of control. The concept is deceptively simple. Everything in life falls into two categories: things you can control and things you cannot. Your thoughts, your choices, your responses, these are yours. Everything else, so other people's actions, the weather, the economy, that subway delay, these exist outside your control. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think this means being passive or not caring. Just accept everything, they imagine. But Epictetus taught the opposite. By clearly identifying what you can't control, you free up massive mental energy to influence what you can control. Let me show you how this works in practice. Jennifer, a nurse in Houston's busiest emergency room, used to go home every night completely drained. Not from the physical work, but from the emotional chaos. Angry patients are screaming at her. Bureaucratic systems are failing. Colleagues are making mistakes. Insurance companies denying critical treatments. She felt like she was drowning in a sea of problems she couldn't fix. Then she learned Epictetus's technique. She started each shift by mentally dividing her world. What can I actually control today? Her list was surprisingly specific. The gentleness of her touch, the clarity of her communication, the accuracy of her work, the compassion in her voice, her response to difficult people. Everything else went into the not my control category. Whether patients appreciated her care, if the computer system crashed, whether doctors showed up on time, whether insurance approved treatments. She didn't become indifferent to these things. She still cared deeply, but she stopped letting them disturb her inner calm. The transformation was profound. Same chaotic emergency room, same systemic problems, same difficult people. But Jennifer discovered what Seneca called a mind at peace with itself. She could work in bedlam while maintaining an inner stillness that nothing could shake. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Realize this, and you will find strength." The emperor wasn't writing self-help fluff. He was reminding himself of this truth while plague ravaged Rome, while Germanic tribes threatened the empire, while his own generals plotted against him. The secret to calm isn't eliminating chaos. That's impossible. The secret is changing your relationship with chaos. Instead of seeing it as an enemy to defeat, you see it as weather to navigate. You don't control the storm, but you absolutely control how you sail through it. Think about your typical stress triggers. Traffic jams, technology failures, difficult people, unexpected bills, health scares. Notice how your mind immediately jumps to resistance. This shouldn't be happening. This is unfair. Why me? That resistance is what transforms manageable situations into suffering. Epictetus had a radical solution. Agree with reality. Not in a defeated way, but in a strategic way. The traffic is jammed? That's simply what's happening. Your coworker is being difficult? That's their choice, not yours to control. The diagnosis is scary? That's the current medical reality to work with. This isn't passive acceptance. It's active engagement with what is rather than what should be. From this place of calm acknowledgement, you can take whatever action is actually available to you. Stuck in traffic? Use the time for audio learning or mental rehearsal. Difficult coworker? Control your own professionalism and boundaries. Scary diagnosis? Focus on treatment options and lifestyle changes within your power. A tech executive in San Francisco described this shift perfectly. I used to spend 80% of my mental energy fighting reality and 20% actually dealing with it. Now I skip the fighting and go straight to the dealing. Same problems, but I handle them from a place of calm instead of chaos. The ancient Stoics knew something neuroscience now confirms. Your brain can't be simultaneously calm and resistant. Resistance activates your fight or flight system. Acceptance activates your prefrontal cortex, the part that solves problems creatively. By choosing calm acknowledgement over chaotic resistance, you literally think better. When you are distressed by an external thing, Epictetus explained, it's not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment of it. And you can wipe this out at a moment's notice. This is the ultimate secret. Calm isn't found by controlling the chaos around you. It's created by controlling the chaos within you. And that control is always available, even in the middle of a stopped subway car with a screaming baby and signal problems. 7. Your daily 5-minute focus ritual that actually works. Here's what Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, did every single morning. Before the Roman Senate could bombard him with politics, before generals could brief him on wars, before the endless line of citizens seeking imperial judgment, he would sit quietly with a simple journal and prepare his mind for the chaos ahead. He wasn't writing poetry or recording events. He was performing a specific mental ritual designed to build unshakable focus for the day ahead. 2,000 years later, this exact same ritual can transform your scattered mornings into launching pads for deep concentration. The ritual takes exactly 5 minutes. Not 30, not an hour of meditation. Just 5 minutes of targeted mental training that compounds into extraordinary results. Here's exactly how to do it, adapted for your modern life. First, grab a simple notebook, nothing fancy, just paper and pen. Your phone won't work for this. The physical act of writing activates different neural pathways than typing, and you need those pathways for what comes next. Minute 1, the reality check. Write this question at the top of the page. What chaos will try to steal my focus today? List the likely distractions. Your toxic coworker's drama. The 16 meetings that could have been emails. Your kid's school is calling about something. The news cycle's latest catastrophe. Your phone's endless notifications. Don't judge these distractions or wish them away. Simply acknowledge them like a weather forecast. Today's mental weather includes scattered interruptions with a high chance of unnecessary urgent emails. You're priming your brain to expect these distractions, which paradoxically reduces their power to derail you. Minute 2, the control inventory. Now write, what can I actually control today? This isn't a to-do list. It's a power list. Your effort on the project. Your response to interruptions. Your decision to check email only at set times. The quality of your attention. Your choice to redirect focus when it wanders. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning, reminding himself, confine yourself to the present. Your control exists only in this day, this hour, this moment. Everything else is imagination. Minute 3, the focus anchor. Choose one primary task that deserves your best attention today. Not 5 tasks. Not your entire to-do list. One significant piece of work that, if completed with excellence, would make today worthwhile. Write it as a commitment. Today, I will give my full presence to specific task. A designer in Denver wrote, "Today, I will give my full presence to the brand identity proposal." A teacher in Atlanta wrote, "Today, I will give my full presence to my lesson on photosynthesis." This isn't about ignoring everything else. You'll still handle other responsibilities, but you're declaring one task worthy of your deepest focus, your mental MVP for the day. Minute 4. The obstacle preparation. Here's where ancient wisdom gets practical. Right? When I get distracted today, I will. Then complete the sentence with your specific recovery plan. When I get distracted today, I will notice it without judgment and return to my task. When I get distracted today, I will take one deep breath and refocus. When I get distracted today, I will say, "Back to work," and redirect my attention. You're not hoping to avoid distraction. That's fantasy. You're pre-planning your response to inevitable distraction. When it happens, your brain already has the program loaded. Minute 5. The evening preview. This is Marcus Aurelius's secret weapon. Write one sentence imagining tonight's satisfaction. Tonight, I will feel proud that I maintained focus on your primary task despite specific expected chaos. Tonight, I will feel proud that I maintained focus on the quarterly report despite 3 fire drill interruptions. Tonight, I will feel proud that I maintained focus on my painting despite my anxiety about mom's surgery. This isn't wishful thinking. You're creating what psychologists call implementation intention, a mental link between situation and response. Your brain now has a clear picture of success. That's it. 5 minutes. But here's why this simple ritual works when complicated productivity systems fail. First, you're training your brain every single day. Not occasionally when you remember, not when crisis hits. Every single day. The compound effect is staggering. After 30 days, redirection becomes automatic. After 90 days, deep focus becomes your default state. After a year, you're operating at a level that seems superhuman to others but feels natural to you. Second, you're working with your psychology, not against it. By acknowledging distractions in advance, you remove their element of surprise. By clarifying what you control, you stop wasting energy on what you don't. By choosing one focus anchor, you give your brain clear priorities. By pre-planning your response, you eliminate decision fatigue. By previewing success, you create momentum before the day even begins. Sarah, a startup founder in Austin, credits this 5-minute ritual with saving her company. "I was drowning in reactive mode. Every notification, every urgent request, every shiny opportunity. The ritual gave me a daily reset button. Now I accomplish more by 10 a.m. than I used to all day." The Roman emperors and Stoic philosophers didn't have smartphones or Slack or 24-hour news cycles. But they had something we've lost: the discipline of mental preparation. They knew that 5 minutes of morning focus could protect 8 hours of productivity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for?'" the things I was brought into the world to do. Your morning ritual is your declaration of what you were brought into the world to do. Not to react to every notification, not to drown in other people's urgencies, but to focus your remarkable human mind on work that matters, despite the chaos that surrounds you. 5 minutes. That's all that stands between you and the focused life you crave. Master your mind, master your life. Remember where we started with Seneca in his chaotic Roman apartment, surrounded by noise, facing financial ruin and death threats, yet somehow producing work that would inspire millions for millennia. The difference between Seneca and someone paralyzed by distraction wasn't talent or circumstance. It was a trained mind. Through this journey, you've discovered the same mental tools that transformed ancient philosophers into masters of focus. You've learned why your brain hijacks your attention, how to redirect it without resistance, and how to build unshakable concentration through daily practice. You've seen how to maintain clarity when life explodes into crisis, find calm in the eye of any storm, and start each day with a 5-minute ritual that changes everything. But here's what matters most. This ancient mind trick isn't just about productivity. It's about reclaiming your life from the tyranny of distraction. Every time you successfully redirect your focus, you're not just completing tasks, you're declaring independence from the chaos that tries to control you. Think about what becomes possible when you master this skill. That book you've always wanted to write, you'll actually write it. That business idea bouncing around your head, you'll build it. Those meaningful conversations you keep postponing, you'll have them. The deep work that scares you because it matters so much, you'll finally dive in. The Stoics understood something profound. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your attention. Scattered attention creates a scattered life. Focused attention creates a life of intention, purpose, and achievement. When you master your mind, you don't just work better, you live better. This transformation doesn't require perfect conditions. Seneca proved that in ancient Rome. You're proving it in modern America. Whether you're in a noisy apartment in Chicago, a chaotic office in Phoenix, or a cramped subway car in New York, you now possess the tools to find focus anywhere. The ancient philosophers would be amazed to see you applying their techniques to challenges they never imagined. Smartphones, social media, 24/7 connectivity. Yet they'd recognize the battle immediately. The human struggle for mental clarity is timeless. The solutions they discovered work just as powerfully today as they did 2,000 years ago. So here's your call to action. Not just for today, but for life. Start tomorrow morning with the 5-minute ritual. When distractions arise, practice calm redirection. When chaos erupts, remember what you control. When your mind screams that you need perfect conditions to focus, prove it wrong. If this ancient wisdom has opened your eyes to what's possible, help spread this message. Subscribe to Stoic Vivu for more practical philosophy that transforms modern lives. Hit that like button if you're ready to master your focus. Share this with someone drowning in distraction who needs these tools. And comment below with your biggest focus challenge. Let's build a community of people committed to mental mastery. Remember, the power to focus in chaos isn't a gift some people have and others don't. It's a skill anyone can develop. Seneca developed it. Marcus Aurelius developed it. Now it's your turn. Master your mind and you master your life.